In 2017, a mysterious game emerged from the shadows. A haunting, beautiful world of bugs, swords and sorrow. It became an indie legend. But now, years later, fans are asking the same question. Where is the sequel? Where is Silksong? And what even was Hollow Knight? And where is he now? Hollow Knight is often called one of the greatest Metrovanias ever made. But it's not just about platforming or bug combat. This is a story about gods, lies, sacrifice, and a war that never ended. Before we find out what's going on with Silksong, we need to go back to where this dark fairy tale began, how it won over millions of players, and why its world still haunts us. To understand what's next, we need to understand what really happened beneath Dirtmouth.
WCF, mate.
Long ago, the kingdom of Hallownest thrived. Built by bugs, ruled by a mysterious being called the Pale King. His empire was vast and glorious, until the infection began. A glowing orange plague that would spread like wildfire, driving its victims mad and stripping them of self. At the heart of this tragedy is the Pale King. He arrived in Hallownest as a worm, a giant worm of divine power. He then shed his form to become a god king bug thing. Through his influence, he brought order to the scattered bug tribes and created a unified kingdom. However, not all tribes would unite. Some would kill those that strayed into their land. Other tribes, he managed to arrange deals to secure peace. One tribe, being the Moth tribe, once totally devoted to the Radiance, had fully committed to the Pale King, as not only did the king offer order, but vast intelligence for all those within the kingdom. This would allow all the tribes to thrive and grow. Other bugs from distant lands were enticed by the intelligence offered, that they would too join the Pale King as they travelled to build tribes themselves. One being within the Colosseum of Fools, an arena of entertainment where strong warriors would face deadly trials to prove their strength. As the kingdom flourished, the Pale King and his wife, the White Lady, would relish in this new land, even taking over a beautiful garden. They would set up stations for stags to transport citizens around this ever-growing kingdom. Peace and tranquility would thrive until the plague started to ooze out. Once the capital of Hallownest, it rains endlessly due to a cracked ceiling above the blue lake. This city was the seat of the Pale King's throne and the heart of this newly intelligent civilization. Now, it is mostly empty, patrolled by ancient guards and haunted by echoes of nobility, leaving this a barren wasteland compared to how it flourished, leaving the player with the echoes of the faint soundtrack, which, in my opinion, is one of the best in the game. A lush, overgrown region protected by a mossy guardian called the Moss Knight, and watched over by the mysterious Un, a forgotten god. Green Path represents nature unbound, as the luscious greenery spread to every corner of its region, becoming part of Hallownest, but never fully tamed by the Pale King's order. This is due to the distant presence of Un, as it is said that it has created all of the area's flora and the Mosskin themselves from her dreams. It is rumoured that the area stretched over the Queen's Garden and even possibly into the Fog Canyon itself. There was no limit to this beauty. Once a beautiful sanctuary of the White Lady, possibly once an extension of the Green Path, although the Pale King was able to heavily lock down this luscious garden for his wife, who I read was blind, so I don't see the need for a garden, although this could be caused by the infection, and then of course this makes total sense, as I know that later on she would then root herself into the garden, leaving her protection to one lone knight. The gardens were once a place of hope, but now represent beauty, lost to time. Inhabited by fungal bug beings, who share a sort of hive mind surrounded by toxic waste and overrun spores. This could be a treacherous land, The Mushroom Clan happily sided with the Pale King, although would soon be consumed by the infection, unlike the nearby Mantis tribe, who resisted the Pale King's expansion, choosing to remain independent and warrior-like. Wanting to keep peace, they swore to prevent any dangers from Deepnest leaking out. Due to this, the Mantises were one of the few tribes not consumed by the infection, except for those who were too goddamn cool for their clan and would willingly be infected by the Radiance for ultimate power. A terrifying, web-covered abyss ruled by Hera the Beast, one of the three dreamers. Deepness resisted the Pale King's control and clung to the ancient traditions. It is the birthplace of Hornet and the heart of primal fear. Even though Hera refused to join him, the dalliance between them was more than enough though to conceive Hornet. Yeah, that's right, the Pale King not only fucks, but he likes to cheat on his blind wife, who might not have been blind at this point, I'm not too sure. But she never begrudged him for this, as she would begin to develop affection towards Hornet, her little new stepdaughter thing. Yeah. At the very bottom of Hallownest, this is where the Pale King cast down his failed vessels. Echoes of countless children lie here in the darkness, consumed by the void. The whispers of the void here reveal a deeper mystery about what the night really is. A mountain of industry and exploitation, where bugs were once forced to mine crystals for the Pale King's infrastructure. Now overtaken by infected miners, it stands as a symbol of Hallownest's greed and unchecked ambition. A self-contained kingdom of bees, sealed off from the infection, the hive-mind nature of these people parallels the Radiance's influence. They are distant and isolated, governed by a protective hive queen, resulting in a strong network that kept them safe as those around them became consumed by the chaos of the infection. As time went on, the queen had grown too big for the hive and died, allowing for cracks to form within their hive. This then led to the infection to seep in and slowly infect all those that had spent so long protected by their queen. Guarded by the acid-wielding jellyfish and the mysterious teacher Monomon, this canyon holds deep secrets of dream and memory. It's also protected by a weird force field hinting at high dream energy influence, which doesn't sound all that good when the Radiance can infiltrate the minds of those that are dreaming. The light of the Radiance, now forgotten by the bugs of the land. But one could never forget. The Pale King, he feared this deity, a forgotten moth goddess of dream and light, who once ruled the minds of the bugs that habited Hallownest. This wouldn't be in vain, due to the fact that she would start to appear in people's dreams, causing the bugs of Hallownest to remember her. And so, when they did, she struck back, with a powerful psychic plague called the Infection. Within a blink of an eye, it would soon sweep over this thriving kingdom, warping the minds of everyone, causing them to become feral and aggressive, bringing a never-ending chaos to the land. As the infection spread, the Pale King turned to the abyss, a chasm filled with void. Here he would begin to create vessels, soulless children born of the void and his own essence. A hollow shell to contain the Radiance, but most importantly, a vessel without will. Thousands were discarded, until one was chosen, the Hollow Knight. Tasked to hold the Radiance within, the Hollow Knight would need to be sealed away within a black egg. 3 highly respected bugs were asked to become dreamers in order to form seals on the temple of the black egg to contain the Radiance and the sacrificial Hollow Knight. Monomon, the teacher, a chief researcher and teacher of Hallownest. Without hesitation, she accepted, entrusting her mask of protection to her apprentice, Quirrell, in which he would protect with his life and wear it to honour his master. Lorien, the Watcher. He watched over the capital of Hallownest before it fell to the City of Tears. With his almighty telescope in the Watcher's spear, protected by the Watcher's knights, his personal guards, he witnessed the untold horrors unfolding as the infection took hold of the capital. This caused him to volunteer to become a dreamer due to the devotion and loyalty he had to the Pale King, Hera the Beast. The queen of the spider tribe is left without an heir due to the fall of her partner, so she would make a deal of dalliance with the Pale King in order to conceive her child that would later be revealed as Hornet, the vessel's half-sister. This was all in order to quell the infection, hopefully saving Deep Nest and the kingdom. The dreamers would then be put into an eternal sleep in order for the seals to work. However, things weren't so simple. This knight wasn't actually hollow. It had attachments, emotions even. Spending too much time by the side of the Pale King, it had grown attached. A bond, some would say. However, the Pale King was unaware and continued with his plan, not knowing how it was destined to fail. Or maybe, did he? So when he was sealed within the Black Egg Temple with the Radiance, the seal was imperfect, resulting in the infection bleeding out, sweeping through the lands within the kingdom, leaving it in utter chaos and despair. As the game loads, you witness the not-so-hollow knight screeching out in pain, beckoning you. You, the player, are just another discarded vessel, unworthy to be hollow in the eyes of your father. You hear the call, beckoning the one that returns, the one that might do what the others couldn't, resist attachments, and imprison the Radiance once and for all, achieving what others couldn't. As you escaped the void and left this wasteland, you heard this noise and clutched your nail, as you are the one that returns, the one to bring peace and order back to your birthplace. Traversing through Dirtmouth and taking out the corrupted bugs across your journey, you stumble across Hornet, your half-sister. Instead of being greeted with love and open arms, she flings a needle at your face with intent to kill, as she states how you're not worthy for the task ahead. This is where you would actually defeat her and continue on your adventure, collecting new powers and charms. Besting her in battle, Hornet would start to believe in you and your journey as you came across her again within the heart of the City of Tears. This is where Hornet tells the knight to seek out the Graven Ash. This is the Pale King's true form, the worm he once arrived as. This is where the knight could receive the mark of the king. This was optional though, as he could then travel into the resting place of the three dreamers, allowing him to meet the seer, who is part of the Moth tribe, who would then give him the dream nail, giving the knight total control over other people's dreams, as he can now freely enter and exit dreams and thoughts of others. This allows the knight to kill all of the three dreamers who guard the seal of the Black Egg, shattering the seal, allowing for the knight to complete his task and take the place of the tainted Hollow Knight. But that's just one of the many endings. Another ending is that when the knight follows Hornet's advice and heads to the Graven Ash, where he must face off against his half-sister for a final time, proving to her that he is truly worthy. This is where the little knight will receive the king's brand, allowing him to enter the Abyss, his place of birth. However, he would then travel to the White Lady and collect one half of the king's soul. He would then enter the dreams of the king's mold's corpse in the palace grounds. He would find the other half next to the body of his deceased father, and once fusing both halves, he would finally be able to enter his birthplace in the heart of the Abyss, finding the egg that he hatched from, regaining memories and transforming the king's soul into the Void Heart Charm. Wielding all this power, it means the little knight is ready to enter the Black Egg and face the Hollow Knight, leading to another ending. Well, two actually, as during this fight, Hornet would assist you, leaving the Hollow Knight open to be struck down by the Dream Nail. Or you could just ignore her aid and keep on striking your not-so-hollow brother until he is defeated and the little knight can then consume the Radiance. This act would also leave Hornet, your half-sister, trapped within the Black Egg beside you as some sort of dreamer. However, as she sealed away with you, no one would be able to enter her dreams and kill her, to be able to open the egg, to be able to defeat you if the Radiance would ever ooze out once more. The next few endings are what I found people expect Silksong to continue from. So, ending 3. Hornet would then assist you during the final fight, trapping the knight, allowing you to enter his dreams as you face off versus the big bad Radiance. As you clash with this godlike creature, shades slowly appear around you in support, and before you know it, the little knight unleashes the full power of the void to defeat her, leaving Hornet to awaken as the shades disappear, realizing that the little knight has destroyed the Radiance and himself. The fourth ending is achieved once the little knight overcomes the Pantheon of Hallownest, unleashing the Shade Lord to defeat and consume the Radiance. As the void fell, it would drip into the soul of the Godseeker. Hornet would then be approached by something. Maybe the not-so-hollow knight? Or is it the foe who captures her and delivers her to the kingdom's peak, leading to Silksong? The final ending I shall just show you, but to achieve this, you must give the Godseeker the white flower. Apologies for not covering the full lore and all of the endings. I just didn't want to dribble on too much on this little part, resulting in a massive video. So if you actually do want me to expand on the lore, then please let me know, and if enough people ask, I'll happily make an in-depth lore video on all the endings. So yeah, let me know. Some believe the knight is a true Hollow Knight. Others think the Radiance isn't evil, just forgotten, as it never seemed to cause any harm to any of the bugs until the Pale King got involved and overthrew her and her rule, granting intelligence to the bugs. Could giving bugs intelligence actually cause more harm than good? Could the Radiance be the one trying to save the bugs from the pain and hurt that comes with knowledge? There's actually a fan theory that the Pale King was once a vessel, that this cycle of power and memory loss just repeat endlessly, leaving this to the never-ending cycle of pain and corruption. There's about another 5 theories on just the growth of the Hollow Knight alone, and why it's about 3 times the size of all its siblings. Don't even get me started on the theories about the Void. I mean, it's a hive mind, a god, a remnant of some ancient thing. This power whispers from the abyss, and it remembers all that was done to it.
But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory.
What crazy theories have you heard on Hollow Knight, or have you come up with yourself? Please let me know all of the crazy things down below in the comments. In 2013, 2 friends from Australia decided to enter a game jam. Harry Gibson, who was a talented animator, and his good friend Will Pellin, the lead designer. They'd met 10 years prior and had shared interests in the time. William was a web designer. Behind the scenes, he would tinker about with games that he'd release on Newgrounds, and his games are actually still able to be played on Newgrounds today. Harry always had a passion for animation, having great opportunities working on TV, short movies, commercials, and even a few video games. These two, with the help of a talented artist called Rowan Fraser, would form a company called Teamcherry, in which they would begin creating a game for a game jam that I previously mentioned. This birthed the creation of the Hungry Knight? This was a simple top-down survival game that you had to slay creatures and collect cherries to survive. Sadly, this wasn't that stable and had really bad frame drops, and when it was published on Newgrounds, it was rated just 1 out of 5. However, over time, this ranking has actually raised, and that's because it's still playable today, and that's most probably because of all the die-hard Hollow Knight fans going over and playing it and giving it one hell of a rating, because the game really isn't that good. They would then enter 2 more game jams, releasing their games onto Newgrounds once again, as one of them didn't even make the deadline. Along came April 2014, and Ludum Dare were once again hosting another game jam, with the theme Beneath the Surface. They would combine this theme with the game Hungry Knight, creating the foundations for the beloved Hollow Knight. One thing Teamcherry were quite consistent with, and that it was missing deadlines, as once again they missed the deadline for this game jam. Although something had been triggered in both their minds. They could see visions like none before. Without hesitation, they would both quit their jobs and begin working on Hollow Knight full time. Wanting to create this with a Metroidvania feel, they chose to have a maze-like map, but with a twist. To nullify the boredom of traversing over the same area over and over again, they would add a mini-boss and interesting characters around the map, which included an NPC which would sell parts of the map to help the player navigate this treacherous terrain. Not only that, but the main starting area would change as the infection spread around Hallownest. Fully devoted, they would dedicate the next 6 months to this project. During this time, they realised they needed more money to produce their vision, so they would then start a Kickstarter. November 18, 2014. The Kickstarter went live, shooting past their goal, receiving over 57k. Goals were added, but one being a Wii U port, which they would actually achieve. During this, the team would then go through some changes, as Rowan would leave and David Kazi would then be brought in as technical director to assist with coding the game. Chris Larkin would then be hired to produce the game's music and sound effects, and we all know what an amazing job this guy did. This entire time, the game had been created on Stencil. However, this wasn't the most flexible software to use, and knowing they had to now create a Wii port they would transition over to Unity with the help of their newly experienced programmer, David. Hollow Knight was originally scheduled to be released in June 2015, and it was estimated to be about 2 to 3 hours long. Thanks to the success of this Kickstarter, they would now be able to invest more time and money into creating their true vision, which would increase the amount of areas and creatures that we'd be able to discover within this world. All the lore that you uncover throughout Hallownest is the brainchild of William and Ari, as they would stick to their basic plot they had planned from the get-go. As more areas were added, more lore would organically make its way into the game. Even though they're able to raise a lot of money via the Kickstarter, the project would end up costing around 100k Australian dollars, resulting in the team needing to get a loan to continue funding the project. This meant the team would have to be smart, removing a massive area that they had planned. The Bone Forest. This was a main bit of content that they chose to remove. Even though this area was almost completed, filling it with lore and enemies would have delayed the project even further, costing them thousands more in budget, or just meaning they would have to put less content in the rest of the game. In Team Cherry fashion, the game had been delayed so long that it was now the end of the Wii U cycle and would now need to be moved over to the Switch. Luckily, many of the backers had moved over to this new console as well. Hollow Knight would then be released on PC on the 24th of February 2017, followed by the Mac and Linux versions on 11th of April. The Switch port would take even longer than expected though, as they had many issues with the code, so the team reached out to Jumpshark Studios, who would help rework the code so it would be able to run on the Switch. This would then come out on the 12th of June 2018. 250,000 copies would then be sold within the first 2 weeks, which is just insane for an indie company. These guys must have been grinning ear to ear. Another goal that was actually added to the Kickstarter was to have the game include another playable character, and maybe making it a multiplayer game? This is why Princess Hornet was originally created. However, in February 2019, it was announced that instead of making her a playable character in Hollow Knight, Team Cherry would begin the development of a fully fledged pre-sequel called Silksong. Hornet would be the main character for this game. This was announced in the 2019 February, just throw that out there. Well, it was a little while ago. Work didn't actually start on this new world just yet though, as the creators still had more visions of Hallownest, adding additional DLCs, such as Hidden Dreams, the Grim Trope, Lifeblood, and the Godmaster, which gave everyone new and fresh content with added bosses and charms, inviting new and old players to return to Dirtmouth. Physical copies would now be ported over to the Xbox and PlayStation, even though digital versions had been available since 2018. This would result in the small indie company exploding with popularity, selling over 2.8 million copies, turning their dreams into reality as they could now work comfortably as game designers that they've always wanted to be. This hand-drawn animation captivates the player with cryptic lore hidden in dialogue and scenery, a soundtrack that pulls you into grief and wonder. This wasn't another Metroidvania, this was Hollow frickin' Knight. Hornet returns in Silksong, captured and taken to Farloom. But what is this kingdom of silk? Some say it's a dream world, others think it's the Radiance's domain, or could it just be the birthplace of her mother, Hera the Beast? She's the queen of Deepnest, and the mother of the spiders, and well, spiders produce silk, so could this all be linked? With how Team Cherry have confirmed all the endings are canon, the player base concluded that this new game would be a prequel. But here's the crazy part, Silksong might actually be a sequel. I mean, Steam actually confirms this too. This new adventure, you will play as Hornet, the princess protector of Hallownest. However, you will adventure through a whole new kingdom ruled by silk and song. You were captured and brought to this unfamiliar world, where you must battle foes and solve mysteries as you ascend on a deadly pilgrimage to the kingdom's peak. Hornet is different. She has a voice. She has a soul. She might not want to save this new kingdom. She might want to rule it, or even destroy it. The Hollow Knight community is wild. Lore breakdowns, theories, philosophy, and full game mods. Did you know Counter-Strike started as a Half-Life mod? Well, Hollow Knight has its own new bosses, playable Radiance, new endings, VR ports, and even memes turned into bosses that fans have all created just to continue the fun and enjoyment that they have had with this epic franchise. And Team Cherry just lets this happen. They know the story isn't done, and nor are the modders, also delivering some of the most insane skin pack overhauls the community could ever ask for. Hollow Knight is a game about shattered fragments of the past and people combined into memory. The gods have failed the people, causing kingdoms to collapse and be forgotten. One knight might have saved it all, or will the cycle just keep repeating itself? Silksong might bring us answers, or another layer of questions, like this one. Oh, hey, Elwood here. Like, what the fuck is this? Is it just me or does this look really freaking dodgy? But one thing is clear, the Hallow Nest and the Hollow Knight never truly dies. Because the Void remembers. It remembers everything we might wish to forget. But where is it? Where is Silksong? With Hollow Knight, there were just loads of delays. They ran out of money, and when they finally got more and got to a point where they felt comfortable, they just released it. And that's why when it was released, it had loads of FPS issues back on PC back in the day. Thankfully, they would reinvest all this money that they made into improving and growing this new world. And well, I think that's just it. They want to make sure that this game is perfect. And well, that's the problem. Due to having a small team and the game having such success, this puts the game in a rare bracket. One half where the devs just want to make the game as perfect as possible due to the issues it had when the franchise was first birthed. And the second half is the fact that they're now millionaires, and in theory they have all the time in the world to slowly tinker in this game until they see fit. Being a small indie company with no publisher, they're not pressed to complete this game by a set deadline. They just have the freedom to complete and publish the game whenever they feel it's completed, the way they want it to be, telling us their new story in full from the get-go, rather than having to release DLCs later on and keep tinkering with the game for many years. Which I think is a very smart idea, but it's also taken quite a while. Of course people aren't going to lose interest in this game, but some people just might not have the opportunity to play it, which will be devastating for those who have been waiting all these years. However, can you ever really finish a game? I'm no game designer, although I have dabbled in creation and I know many talented designers, and every one of us underestimates how long this process can take, as not only do you run into unexpected problems, but even the most advanced developers run into problems of themselves and their ideas, as they always grow and they need to improve on their idea, what never ends. You can see this with a multitude of games on Steam that always get delayed or released in an early access and never get fully released. One day, Silksong will release, and people feel that this time is coming soon. But will their ideas keep breeding other ideas, just like the little knight birthed the idea of Hornet in the first place? And how this DLC idea grew into a possible switchable character, into a fully fledged game? We won't hear anything from these creators, as if they predicted any date. They would be pressed by the community, and they just don't want that. They just don't want to disappoint their fans, resulting in us receiving rare news about this much anticipated game. As pressure builds, so does the delay of the creation and the decay of the creators. I conclude that we just have to be patient and hope that the creators are well, and I'm sure we will see the release of Silksong when they are good and ready. Just might be another 10 years. If you enjoyed this, then I'm sure you'll love my What the Fuck Happened to Gaming series, where I break down what happened to different game franchises that we all know and love. My most recent one has been on Doom, which I freaking enjoyed making, and if you want to see a bit of a creative side of me, then go check that out right now. But I've got to end this with one main question. What do you think Hollow Knight is really about? Is Silksong coming? Are you ready? Thank you all so much for making it to the end. If you enjoyed this video, then of course please like, subscribe, share, all that glorious jazz. But most importantly, leave a comment down below so I can reward myself with a cookie.
I'm gonna kill you.
You guys are amazing. Where I'm just Elwood from Not So Serious Gaming. I hope you have a great morning, evening, night, whatever time of day is. I hope you have a great one and peace out.
The fuck was that?